quite possibly one of the strangest fixtures for Newcastle fans to get their head round is almost here. A trip down to London on a Monday night is bad enough at the best of times, but our biggest game in recent history is just 6 days later. How does Eddie Howe approach it, and how do we go into it as fans? The West Ham match previews come up, Newcastle fans, so do me a little favour and make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black and White Banter, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, as I said at the start of this video, there certainly feels bigger fish to fry than a Monday night trip down to London. And look, I just want to go on record and say, any fan that is travelling down to London and back on Monday to then do the same again for Wembley weekend, and all the cost of the trains, the travel, the hotels, you name it for that, I salute you. I would love to be down there on Monday night, but work doesn't allow it. I am all over the shop next week before I get my bag of cans and head on the train down to King's Cross the following weekend. So that's why we've got the best fans in the land, and I'm sure that away end will be popping. But look, this match feels a little bit like the elephant in the room. And before we get into the tactical analysis and how we should approach it, I just want to say that I am so happy to hear Eddie Howe approach this game exactly like I would want him to. This is a Premier League match. We have lost two matches in the space of a week to Liverpool and obviously Brighton. We do need to feel winning football matches, but most importantly, there was less talk about him fielding a weaker side, which we'll get onto in a second. This game feels very much like when you get tickets for a concert or a gig and there's support acts on that you've never heard of, but sometimes you arrive for the support act just to get a decent place in the stadium and a couple of pints before it gets manic, but you don't really care what is going on. Every single Newcastle fan watching this game on Monday night will firstly be watching either behind a cushion in the house or down at the pub 8 pints deep on the concourse, because there are so many things that could go wrong in a week when everything has already gone wrong with that Carabao Cup final in mind. So let's talk a little bit deeper about what Eddie Howe looks and should or shouldn't do for this one. Well, as I've just mentioned, anyone who listens to Eddie Howe's press conferences, it is absolute music to my ears on a Friday afternoon whilst I'm working away. He has approached that elephant in the room in one of his first questions he was asked and said there is no way on this earth that he is going to field a weaker side. He's not going to change his approach to this game because there's a match thereafter. But what is most important, in my opinion, is that he's come out and said that players need minutes if you are going to beat the likes of Liverpool. And that is a statement that I could not agree with more, literally. So much talk in our fan base of resting Isak, resting Joe Linton, resting some of our bigger players to give them a 2-week break before a final. I'm sorry, but the Premier League, this standard of football does not work like that. Liverpool have got PSG, then Premier League, then PSG. That momentum is so powerful. Minutes, being sharp, all of these factors work more in your favour than against you. And look, I totally understand fans that might say, look, if Isak isn't 100% fit, don't play him. We've got Asulu, we've got Wilson. I would agree with that. But what Eddie Howe is telling us is that Isak is sharp as a dart and he's got 2 more training sessions before Monday. Same for a lot of the other players where there was a lot of concerns. The likes of Joe Linton, in my opinion, Joe Linton needs minutes. Bruno, we don't know what's wrong with Bruno at the moment, but he's certainly a player out of form. You think about what a powerful win down in London on a Monday night to send us back up to them European places in the table could do for our season. So look, my message to the squad and what I hope to see on Monday night, as I hide behind the cushion, is don't field a player that's not fit. Not that Eddie Howe or the training, the medical team would do that anyway, but certainly do not field kids, because 2 weeks rest with an Eddie Howe team has proven time after time after time that it doesn't actually do us many favours. We are a team, like that 11-match unbeaten run, that rides on a wave of momentum. And aside from anything else, Newcastle fans, the league is very, very important. We might lose that cup final on Sunday, who knows? And then all we've got to focus on is, can we get back to European football, which we all need, you could argue. There's only one way to do that. Yeah, you guessed it, the league form. So that's how I would approach this one. Now let's look at the tactical side of things. Right, middle of the broadcast, bit of a random one. I've just been joined by Brian, who's walking around, and as you might see, not what I was hoping to see on someone's coat walking around St James's Park. Right, Brian, I've only got one question for you. You were very polite not to walk past the video, actually. Cup final Sunday. We know we're the underdogs, and I'm going to approach that right now. What are you thinking?
We should batter you.
Oh, I don't like that talk.
We should.
Batter, really?
Yeah, we should. But the way games go, who knows?
Yeah, but
We should have been battered.
did you say that when you came to St James's Park? Were you
No.
All right.
No.
Do you mean because of our injuries?
But with the injuries,
Right.
the way it's panning out for us.
Our left-hand side's not looking great, I must admit.
So we have a good game.
And how much do you think PSG playing them twice and the Premier League before we only have one game at that time? Do you think that's a factor or not? I was just talking about that.
I think the PSV will give us more confidence. There's a lot of confidence.
Momentum's a powerful thing in
there's
football.
There's a big confidence.
Right,
but anyway, lovely city.
Right.
And I'll see you around.
Right, wonderful.
Right.
I would say all the best for Sunday, but I certainly wouldn't mean it. Thanks for speaking to us, mate. There you go, I expected that. Liverpool fan walking past St James's Park. That wasn't on my bingo card today at all. Right, so what can we expect from this West Ham team? Well, of course, they've been recently taken over by Porter. And I think the change at West Ham was needed. Look, the less said about the fact we got beat off Lopetegu's West Ham team back in November, the better. Still, to this day, don't know how that happened. They were getting absolutely tonked by every team they played. I think Arsenal went on to them just after we beat them and scored like 6 at their place away from home. It was just a really bad night for us, and it's those nights that might bite us on the arse. But let's forget about that. What's Graham Potter done differently? Well, Graham Potter isn't a manager who has a set style, which I find quite fascinating. He's turned them into a three at the back with 2 wing backs, 2 number 10s to supply the forward. And he's just totally changed, and their passes have increased. Lucas Paqueta, who, yes, he's just obviously been heavily suspended for his gambling, but his chances created has doubled in the time that Potter's been in charge. His effect on the game, his shots at goal has increased, and he's given a couple more players more freedom and probably more confidence in the process. But what I find quite interesting about this West Ham side is that right-hand side of theirs, and that's something we need to look out for. In a recent match against Aston Villa, over 70% of their attacks came down the right-hand side. We know what they possess. We know who their danger men are. We know how good Jarrod Bowen is. I would have Jarrod Bowen at Newcastle. Is he suited to an Eddie Howe style? I don't know. But he's a very good footballer who can score lots and lots and lots of goals. And I think he's probably the most underrated players in the Premier League. But Wan-Bissaka, who, can I just go on record and say, was a defender I liked when he was at Man United. He was just sucked into everyone being bad there, as we've seen. God, I think Anthony, give it 6 months, will be going for the Ballon d'Or, playing in Spain. The right-hand side is a threat, and that's where I think Joe Linton becomes really important in these matches. I think Joe Willock, if he plays, can be really important in these matches. But again, I'm going to keep saying it. It's not because I dislike the guy. I do not think that Harvey Barnes in these sorts of games is the answer. And you might say, well, why? That's a little bit harsh on a £35 million goal scorer. It's because of his defensive duties. It's because of his defensive work. I just don't think he offers us that. And I think in a match when you're away from home against a team who've won the last 2, so there is a bit of a feel-good in the West Ham camp, which we haven't known for a while now. I think that stopping their right-hand side is a key. We've got no Lewis Hall. Who do you play there? I think Livermento's probably ample. Livermento against Wan-Bissaka would be really interesting to see, but it's just who Eddie Howe goes with on that left-hand side. I think we can hurt them. I don't think defensively they are very good because Potter hasn't been able to sign too many players to change them. I know Arsenal struggle, but they don't have a striker. We can get at them, and I think if Eddie Howe goes quite full strength, which I think he's going to, stop that right-hand side threat. Bruno needs to improve if we're going to win the midfield battles because they do play with 2 number 10s. He needs to be on his game more than he has, and to be totally honest with you, Tonali does as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we play up against that 2 number 10s and whether we can nullify that threat in midfield. Right, anyway. Couldn't do this video without some black and white banter stats. Start with a bit of positivity pre-cup final. Newcastle United are unbeaten in their last 5 visits down to London, winning 3 and drawing 2. The last time we lost the game against West Ham was under Rafa Benitez in 2019 when we went down 2-0. Some great matches I can remember there over the years. Obviously winning 5-1 in the Champions League season was brilliant, probably the best. It is the best. Honourable shout out for Henry Sarve's free kick when we won 3-2. Does anyone remember that one? Henry Sarve, any new Newcastle fans, I'll find out who you are if you don't know that name. Harvey Barnes, the man who I was just saying shouldn't play in this match from the start because of his lacking defensive work. He's actually scored the most goals against West Ham of any other team, and 3 of those goals have come as a substitute, which does help my argument that you could bring him off the bench and he'll still score. Just saying. Too biased Newcastle fans. I kept the good ones first this time. If West Ham score first on Monday, it's not looking good for us black and whites, unfortunately. They have the 3rd highest points percentage from scoring first in a football match. Only Liverpool and Bournemouth have won more games from when they have scored the first goal. They've won 9 of their 12, drawing 2 and losing 1. So if we concede first, it's going to take a lot of work. Right then, score predictions for this one. I don't like doing these. I haven't done a match preview like this for a while. A certain someone, if you're watching, told me that some of my stats that I put on match blogs after the game is done, people don't care about. And if you are not moving forward as a content creator, you are standing still. So you know who you are. I'm going to try and mix this up. I used to do match previews quite a lot, but score predictions is not my forte. I will go for... I'm fancying a draw in this one, I am. West Ham have got a bit of a spring in their step. Our players will have one eye on the cup final. And to be totally honest with you, a draw at West Ham 6 days before one of the biggest games of my life, would I take it now in front of the Sky cameras? I probably would. I will go for 2-2 is my score prediction. Isak to bag at least 1 for us. Let us know your score predictions down below, Newcastle fans, and let me know how you feel about what feels such a weird match pre-cup final. It is a big game. We can't just start palming off league fixtures like they mean nothing, because we will get left behind in the chase for Europe. And as that Scouts fella's just said to me, we are the underdogs, although his thoughts on us getting battered I do not agree with. Thank you very much for watching, Newcastle fans. Fingers crossed we can do something in London twice this week and bring on Wembley week. Keep the faith as always in what has been a bad week for Newcastle United news, and Howe Eddie Howe.